Hi everyone, my name is Nina Zeta and I'm Director of Partnerships at Sidewalker Daily. And today I want to talk a little bit about kind of like a checklist to prepare you before you start pitching to brands. So things you may want to consider to be organized ahead of time before you press go. If you don't know anything about Sidewalker Daily, just to give you the quick rundown, we work with travel brands mostly, and we work on their influencer marketing. So we're receiving pitches like all the time, and we're creating different influencer marketing campaigns. So we're kind of like in a really special place because we can share with you guys, the creatives, things that you should be doing before your pitch to kind of make sure, all your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. Excuse me. And obviously we don't want these to be like roadblocks for you to not start your pitching, but it is important to be organized ahead of time to make sure you have your ducks in a row. So step 1, research the brand. I know it may sound intuitive and like, of course, but I can't tell you the amount of times I received a pitch that just looks like a copy and paste, from someone else, from another email that you guys are sending to another brand. A lot of the times the research phase is kind of underlooked. And when I say research, I mean, go on their website, read their about us. Is there certain news that's come out? See if they have a recent press release out there. Go on their social media. What are they currently posting? Take the time to really go on the back end and research the brand that you want to work with. Think of it as like a job interview. If you were going to go on a job interview, you would have researched the brand, right? Well, pitching isn't always done on email. A lot of the times it's done face to face, and sometimes it's in networking. So the more you know about like a brand or an individual, before you meet them, the more prepared you will be, and kind of like shows that you care. So like if, I've been at a conference before and someone came up to me, I know they've researched me. They're like, oh, we saw you speak at so-and-so, or we watched your video on this. And it makes me feel like they've done their homework before even, coming up to me. You'll want to make sure that you research their mission statement, their key messages, like a rundown of their products, as well. And again, the more information you have, the more, prepared you'll feel. Step 2, you're going to want to research their past influencer campaigns. Is this a brand that has even worked with influencers before? Are they a veteran in this space and for sure they have, or they're a newbie? They may need to be like handheld a little bit more. Research to see if they've actually done influencer projects before. And you can do this by going like on their Instagram account, seeing, or taking a look at different influencers and seeing who they're posting about. If you see an influencer or a content creator that you like, and they have the hashtag ad, bingo, that means this brand engages in influencer marketing. So I would definitely add them to a certain list. And that list should be brands that, work in influencer marketing, because you already know they're open to it. And it's helpful when you're pitching, like back to what I said about being organized, making sure you have a list of the brands that that already engage in this type of marketing. It's only going to make it easier for you. Also, if you see like different micro influencers, like influencers with like smaller, followings are posting ad, then and you're a smaller influencer, that is a great way for you to kind of do like a comparison. Of course, if someone's doing ad and they have like millions of followers, but you haven't seen like any like smaller people with smaller followings, using the hashtag ad in association with this account, then that may be like kind of a signal that they're only working with like really big accounts. On the flip, if you see people with really small accounts, using this term hashtag ad when you're getting organized, you want to make a note of that. Like this brand works with micro influencers or nano influencers. And that's just going to help you because you're going to be able to compare where you are at in your journey and then kind of like pitch accordingly. So we've talked about researching, right? We've talked about researching the brand. We've talked about researching their past influencer projects. Now you've done your research. You want to make sure you have the right tools to send out those pitches. This is if it's via email. So your media kit, step 3. Media kits are obviously, it just depends like where the pitch is being done. If it's being done via email, you can afford to send a larger media kit that's like longer in length. If it's in a conference and you're pitching in person, you're not going to want to show up with like a 6, 7, 8 page media kit. It's just like too much. So make sure, to think critically, where's this pitch going? How is it being, processed? If it's in person, bring a 1-pager back and front, printed on like some nice, thick, solid paper. For step 4, case studies. Now, if you're trying to work with a brand or pitch to a brand, the media kit is obviously a necessity. Like you need to kind of show an about you, because remember, if you're doing it via email, like you want to give them something to understand your brand aesthetic, your past work, who you are, and all that good stuff that goes in a media kit. But for a case study, which is step 4, the case study is going to take an example of a past project that you worked on and really dive deep down and give that brand that you're pitching to an inside look of what you're capable of delivering. Now, it's a lot more focused on, the analytics behind a campaign, how many impressions you were able to bring, content that you were able to create, whatever it is. A case study takes an example of something you've done and just defines it. The case study is going to say, this was the project, these were the dates, this was the goal, this is what was achieved, print screens of, the back end of the analytics, things that the brand can't see. And I just think it makes you look so much more, I guess, smarter and prepared when you're pitching your brand and you have a case study, because it also shows that you're valuing yourself, and you know your value. You're like, this is what I can deliver, and you're confident. And confidence is great when you're pitching to brands. For step 5, let's talk about, drafting your pitch email and knowing who to contact. I think knowing who to contact is probably even more important, right? You got to get your Nancy Drew hat on and get creative, because sending it to like an info or a hello as a, email, like hello@brandname.com, it could get lost in the wind. It's always better to find a direct person. And the same thing goes for in-person pitching. You want to know if you're going to a conference, for example, or if you're planning a meet and greet with a PR agent, someone at a PR agency, we said you're going to research step 1, but you're going to also want to know who to send that pitch to. It's going to make your life so much easier. So a few tools that you can use to find email addresses, like our favorite, we would recommend Rocket Reach. It's a great way to just use a usernames like LinkedIn, and it'll help you find a correct email address. You can also go on the company's website to see who the founder is and see if there's on the privacy policy, or, get creative, look on their website, try to find a direct email address, not like contact at. And lastly, guess what? There's the good old phone. We always forget about the phone. If there's a phone number, call. Just pick up and call and say, hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm looking for the contact information of someone on your marketing team. If you know who that person is, you can just straight up ask for this person. 9 times out of 10, people will be like, okay, yeah, you can reach her here. Or let me direct you to her, her voicemail. Imagine that, getting direct access to someone's voicemail versus just an email to the wind. So, it may seem really old school to pick up the phone, but I'm a big believer in it. If you're pitching in person, you're going to want to have your elevator pitch prepared. That means, what's your 30-second, 60-second spiel on yourself? You need to have that kind of figured out before you go up to someone, right? So you can kind of be like, hi, my name's Dina. I'm Director of Partnerships at Sidewalker Daily. I work with influencers and marketing, and blah, blah, blah. You get the drift. If you're pitching via email, keep it simple, keep it direct, and make sure that you have, what the ask is. There's also a concept that we think is really great is, before even pitching to a brand via an email, you can start by warming up the engine. So this would be asking that brand, do they have a recent press release or a fact sheet? That's kind of putting you on their radar before you even start the pitch and say what you want. I think it's helpful. It can just kind of open that door of communication with a person on the other side. For step 6, when you're looking to work with a brand, you got to kind of think, about your rates, what your ask is, what you're doing before you pitch, right? A lot of times people will pitch and then they're like, oh, wait, you're interested in me? And then there's not enough foresight as to what your rates are, or what you're even offering. So make sure you take some time to think about your rates. You obviously are not going to tell them this in your pitch, but you're going to think about it ahead of time, so that when you get that response, you kind of know how much, you're going to be charging for whatever it is that you're proposing. Now, we know that a lot of the things we covered can take a lot of time, but think of it as an investment in yourself. That media kit, that case study, it's annoying to create and it takes time, but once it's done, it's done. And you can send it out to as many times as you need to.